Hello everybody, welcome to Word Shard. Hello everybody. In the last class we did questions from An Angel in Disguise, and the question that I gave you was, what thought terrified Maggie and what did she say to Mr. Thompson? So there were 2 marks, 1 mark for what thought terrified Maggie. I see Pirated Gamer, you haven't given your name, so give your name so that I can call you. Maggie was terrified because nobody took her to their houses. They all left her in that desolate house, in that wretched house. Her mother was not there, her sister and brother was taken away by Mrs. Ellis and the farmer, and therefore she was all alone over there. She could not get up. She was sick, she was bedridden, and so she was terrified when she saw that everybody was leaving their house. Okay. So the second part of the question, which is, what did she say to Mr. Thompson? Pirated Gamer, the second part of your answer, Maggie said to Joe Thompson not to leave her alone and take her along with him to his home. See, if you follow page number uh, 79, you will see that the girl says, "Oh, Mr. Thompson," she cried out, catching her suspended breath, "don't leave me here all alone." So the answer will only be this part, that Maggie requested Joe Thompson not to leave her alone. You cannot add anything extra, so this part of your answer, strike it out, that take her along with him to his home. That was Joe Thompson's decision. Okay, just this much will be the answer, that Maggie said to Joe Thompson not to leave her alone. Okay, so this part is done. Today we will start with the question answers from Face in the Dark. Okay, so let's start with it, and there will also be another question in the comment section. Follow it and try to answer it. Okay, thank you. A Face in the Dark, we will be doing the important questions and answers from A Face in the Dark. As you know, you will have a question. It will be given for you to answer in the comment section. You will check it in the comment section and try and answer. Rest of the questions all will be discussed in this video, so be rest assured that if you follow these questions, if you prepare these questions for your examination and the extra question that I give you in the comment section, then you will be able to answer all the questions that can come from A Face in the Dark. First, I have given Old Man at the Bridge, I have given you Angel in Disguise, and a few more topics I have given the question and answers. Uh, there are few other poems and prose and pieces that are left, and I will give them, don't worry. So let's start with A Face in the Dark, questions and answers. Let's see the first extract. From before Kipling's time, the school had been run on English public school lines, and the boys, most of them from wealthy Indian families, wore blazers, caps, and ties. Blazers are coats, okay? So, first question, who was Mr. Oliver? So, the first extract is from that portion where we just begin the chapter, where we learn that there is a school in Simla, which is 3 kilometers away, 3 miles from Simla Bazaar, and it was at the top of the hill through the pine forest. There was a shortcut to the school, and we talk about the school over here. That was the first portion of the story. So, who was Mr. Oliver? First question. Mr. Oliver was an Anglo-Indian teacher. Anglo-Indian means somebody who has British as well as Indian origin. He was teaching in a school located 3 miles away from Simla Bazaar. This is another point. The points I am highlighting. First point, Anglo-Indian teacher. Second point, he was teaching in a school which was 3 miles away from the Simla Bazaar. He was a bachelor, this is another point, and he probably stayed in the school premises. That means he stayed inside the school, or there was a hostel with the school. He used to stay over there. You can also write, no, you cannot write this point over here that he was very brave and all that. Okay, just you have to write these 4 points. If the mark allotted over here is 1 mark, then any 2 points from here. Okay, next part, what was his usual activity during the evening? What was his usual activity? There are 2 marks only. His usual activity was to walk down every evening to the Simla Bazaar and return after dark, taking a shortcut through the pine forest. The 2 points are here. First, he used to walk down every evening to the Simla Bazaar and then return when it was dark, taking the shortcut through the pine forest. Coming to the second question, what was called Eton of the East? Why? First part, Eton of the East, you have to just write what was it. So the school in Simla where Oliver used to teach was called the Eton of the East. Okay.
Half a mark for the school in Simla and half a mark for this point that Mr. Oliver used to teach over there. Next, why? Why was it called Eden of the East? So the school had been run on English public school lines and students came from wealthy families. They wore blazers, caps and ties like the students of Eton. So the school was called Eton of the East. So there are 2 marks. You can see that there are almost 2.5 points. Okay, there are 3 points actually. It was run on the English public school lines, wealthy families. This is not a very important point, but was run on English public school lines is a very important point. They used to wear blazers, caps, and ties like the students of Eton. This is also another point. So 2 points, 2 marks. Next, coming to question number C. What kind of weather was there on the night when Oliver was returning to his school? Mr. Oliver was returning through the pine forest. There was a strong wind, and the pine trees were making sad, eerie sounds. Eerie means strange. You can also write strange if you forget the word eerie. Then how did it add it to the setting of the story? Now you see this is a very easy answer. Whenever you see a ghost movie, supernatural elements coming in, what you see? Darkness, then wind, there is a storm raging, then the doors creaking, isn't it? So these are the elements which add to the essence of that ghost appearance. Okay, over here what do you see? The setting is suitable for short stories like A Face in the Dark pertaining to the supernatural because there are supernatural elements appearing. So the elements used, the sad eerie sounds, the strong wind, this add to the supernatural appearances and benefits the appearance of the supernatural. So the strong wind and the eerie sounds help to sow the seeds of fear and suspense in the minds of the readers. This is the important point. Fear and suspense. It helps to build up. What does that creaking sound of the door help? Why is it there in all ghost movies? Because it helps to draw your attention, helps to draw your fear, and also helps to raise the suspense, isn't it? Next, coming to question number D. What did Oliver encounter? Encounter means what did Oliver experience while coming back to school one night? So there are 3 marks, you see. It will be a big answer. There has to be 3 big points. So once while walking through the forest at night, Mr. Oliver saw a boy sitting alone on a rock. So saw a boy sitting alone on a rock is an important point. The boy held his face in his hands, his head hung down, and perhaps he was sobbing as his body was shaking convulsively. So, this is a big point, very big point. See, face in the hands, head hung down. He was sobbing as his body was shaking convulsively. These are the points. Next, the question is, what did he do after that? That means, what did Oliver do after that? First, Mr. This is also a big question. See, there are 4 marks over here. This is going to be a big answer. First, Mr. Oliver thought that the boy was a miscreant. So he thought that this is a very, notorious boy. And so he had come into the forest for fun, running away from his hostel. He came closer to recognize the naughty child. So first part is he thought that he was a miscreant, so he wanted to scold the child, and so he came closer to see that who that boy is. However, as he came, so first part is done. Now he comes closer. After he comes closer, what happens? However, as he came closer, he realized that something was not right. He saw that the boy was crying with his face hid in his hands. Anger gave way to concern. He was now concerned that what has happened to this child? Why is he crying? Has he lost the way? Is he afraid? He tried to calm the boy down and asked him to look up and share his trouble with him. To look up and share his trouble with him, this is another point. Okay. Next, coming to question number E. What kind of man was Oliver as described in the beginning of the story? Mr. Oliver has been described as a man who was not given to nervousness or imagination. Very important point. He was not a man who was afraid a lot or he used to imagine and get afraid of certain things, of ghosts and all that. He was not a man like that. When other people avoided the dark path through the fine forest for the eerie sounds, Mr. Oliver used the way as a shortcut to return to school from Simla Bazaar. So you see, you also have to point out that why you think that this person, Mr. Oliver, is not a nervous man. Because when other people used to avoid the route, the path through the pine forest, this man, Mr. Oliver, used to take the shortcut through the pine forest. Why? Because he was not afraid of ghosts or the sounds or the supernatural elements. Now we will move to extract 2. Okay, first extract is done. There are 5 questions from there. You check it. If you have any doubt over here, you can obviously ask me in the comment section. Okay, if you have followed me up to this and if you are getting help from these videos, please do subscribe so that it will also help your teacher to grow, isn't it? You will be getting more and more important topics discussed over here, but that depends on whether you are subscribing or not. Subscribe, tell your friends to subscribe, share it with your friends because your exam is near. It will help all of you, isn't it? So as you benefit from the videos, let me also benefit from it. Let me benefit from your subscriptions so that I get a boost to help you out. Okay, so hit the subscribe button and also hit the bell icon beside it so that you get every update very easily and very fast. Okay, what are you doing out here? Coming to the next extract, asked Mr. Oliver sharply, moving closer so that he could recognize the miscreant. But even as he approached the boy, Mr. Oliver senses that something was wrong. This is 50% of the chapter is already done. Now we have come to that part where Mr. Oliver is stating that Mr. Oliver suddenly feels that something is wrong. He has already spotted the boy. He realizes, coming closer to the boy, that something is wrong. Something is not right in this with this child. Okay, so he is worried. So, what is the first question? Where did Mr. Oliver find the boy? This is very easy. Mr. Oliver was returning to school through the pine forest at night. Amidst the forest, he found the boy sitting alone on a rock. Okay. What did he notice about the boy? He was surprised. See, there are 3 marks. So, this is going to be a big answer. He was surprised to see that the boy was wearing a school cap. Okay. He was wearing, that is the way Oliver identified him as a school child. He was wearing the school cap. Next, he went closer to the boy and found that his head hung down, his face was held in his hands, and the boy was perhaps sobbing. Sobbing means crying soundlessly, as his body was shaking convulsively. Okay, so these are the points. As he went closer to the boy, he found that his head hung down, his face was held in his hands, and the boy was perhaps crying because his body was shaking. Okay, so this is another point. Coming to the second question from here, why do you think the boy was called a miscreant? This is also a big question. You have to give 3 points over here. Why was he called a naughty boy? Why did Mr. Oliver think the boy to be naughty at the first instance? Mr. Oliver first thought that the boy was a school student and had run away from his hostel and came to the pine forest. No child was supposed to be outside after dark because nobody was allowed to stay outside after dark, and because this child was still sitting in the dark woods, that is why Mr. Oliver thought that perhaps this boy is a miscreant, naughty boy. He has come into the forest without the permission of anybody. Okay, the child must have broken rules and so was called a miscreant. Done. Now we will come to the last extract. After this, you be rest assured that there will be no question that goes undiscussed, and here and there 1 or 2 questions like like that question, that whom did he meet while he was scrambling down the path or while he was running towards his school being very afraid after seeing the boy, then you can easily write it that it was the watchman. Here and there 1 or 2 questions, those are very easy, that I am not writing over here, those are common sense, you can write them easily. First, what you can do is you listen to the explanation that is given. Okay, for example, before going through these questions, first check the video that I have given on the chapter itself. Try and understand it clearly. It must be completely clear to you. All the explanation must be clear to you. You ask me if you face any doubts or if you have any problem anywhere, if you cannot understand a particular part of it. Okay, first you finish that. Then, when you have no doubt in the chapter, then you come over here. What do you find over here? You find all the important questions. Okay, that seems to be a bit difficult. I know that you can answer it very well, but even then, if you face any problems, that is why I have given all the difficult questions over here. Okay, so you follow it, you write it down somewhere, and then you prepare for your examination. Let's come to the third extract. The torch fell from his trembling hand. He turned and scrambled down the path, running blindly through the trees and calling for help. He was still running towards the school building when he saw a lantern swinging in the middle of the path. So you can understand this is that portion when he is already very much afraid, seeing the featureless face of the boy, and then now he starts running towards school and he meets a lantern that was swinging in the middle of the path. Who was it? That was a watchman. So this is the last portion of the story. Let's see what are the questions. Whose trembling hand is referred to in the above extract? Obviously, Mr. Oliver's trembling hands. Why was it trembling? Mr. Oliver asked the boy to look up. The child did the same. When Oliver asked the boy to look up at him, he did it. And to his horror, what did Oliver see? Oliver saw that the face had only a round head with a school cap on top of it. It had only a round head, nothing else. There was no eyes, ears, nose, or mouth. Oliver was so afraid seeing it that the torch in his hand fell. Okay. Coming to question number B, the story ends with a thrilling climax. Okay, there is a thrilling climax. There is a very much a lot of suspense is retained even at the end of the story. So, do you agree with it that there is a thrilling climax? The ending is very exciting. Yes, obviously we agree. Okay, so why do you agree? You have to give reasons. At least 2.5 mark is there. For writing, yes, obviously you are not going to get one full mark, so there will be half a mark for it. But still, then you will have to write a complete sentence. I do agree that the story ends with a thrilling climax. If you just write yes, marks will be deducted. So now you have to explain why you think that the story was thrilling. Okay. The story ends with a sense of ambiguity, making the readers ponder. Ponder means think over the question whether the watchman and the boy were ghosts that Oliver encountered, or whether it was a prank played upon him by a mischievous student. There can be two kinds of, two kind of thoughts that can enter your mind. That was it a prank being played? Was a particular student trying to, scare the person away, scare the teacher, or whether they were really ghosts. The watchman and the boy were really ghosts. So these are the doubts that we still have even when the story has ended, and therefore it is very thrilling and exciting. The poet leaves us in a situation, the author leaves us in a condition where we are still thinking what might have happened to Mr. Oliver after that. That is why it is thrilling. So coming to the last question, and this one is a big question, important question. Okay, the story ends abruptly. That means suddenly the story ends, and the author leaves us pondering, thinking what could have happened afterwards. A face in the dark can be interpreted in a number of ways. This is an open-ended story. Okay, that means the ending is open. You can interpret the story in as many possible ways as you want, but that has to be logical. Okay, you have to prove it that okay, for this reason I am taking it as the ending of the story. So in how many ways you can interpret that, let us see. The short story by Ruskin Bond, on one level, that means what I'm trying to say is what would have happened to Mr. Oliver, and what was this? Was it really a ghost story, or it was a prank played? What is it? So the short story by Ruskin Bond on one level can be read as a paranormal one, with a faceless boy and watchman as two ghostly figures haunting the protagonist, Mr. Oliver. So you can take it as a supernatural story that yes, really there were ghost elements. The boy and the watchman were really ghosts, and Mr. Oliver saw them in the forest. Next, on a deeper level, if you read it in a deeper level, what you can identify from here, it can be read as unraveling the mysteries of human experience. Ruskin Bond believed this one is an important explanation. Mysteries of human experience. Ruskin Bond believed that no matter how rational a person is, there is always an element of superstition in his mental makeup. So there is always, there is always an element of superstition somewhere in your mind. There is always you may say that no, I'm not afraid of ghosts, I don't think that ghosts exist, but even then there is something inside your mind that will always say that yes, ghosts exist, there are supernatural elements and all that. So this incident might have been a dream also, Mr. Oliver, which highlighted his inner fears. Perhaps just after the story ended, Mr. Oliver woke up. It might have happened that Mr. Oliver was afraid, but he did not want to show that he was afraid. So he used the shortcut. He tried to be very brave and all that, but in reality, at the back of his mind, he was very afraid, and that fear showed up in his dream. You see, before the examination, it happens sometimes. You will see that you are late to reach your examination hall, you haven't brought your admit card. These are the things that come up in your mind in your dream. Why? Because the fear is within you, it is hidden deep within you. In the same way, Mr. Oliver's fear was also hidden deep within him, and that is what comes up when he was sleeping. So you might say that at the end of the story, just the story ends and perhaps Mr. Oliver woke up from his dream. Okay, last, it might also be a prank played, this I have already discussed. It can be a prank played by few students of the school where Mr. Oliver taught. The watchman was also a partner in crime. It so have happened that there was this watchman who participated in this prank, and we might assume that Oliver was a strict teacher and the boys disliked him for that. So to scare him away from school, this plan was made. You see, maybe Mr. Oliver was strict, and we often do not like much strict teachers. So the boys were very annoyed with him and wanted to scare him away. That is why they played this prank. Everybody knew that Mr. Oliver regularly went through the pine forest, so it was very easy for the students to play this prank, isn't it? Every day he used to come through the forest, so they could choose any day to scare the man. So here we come to an end with this chapter with all the important questions from here. There is one question, one single easy question that will be in the comment section so that you can answer it. That will be for you all to answer. Okay, so here we come to an end, and I hope you have liked the video. If you have liked it, please comment, subscribe, and share it with your friends. Thank you. Bye bye.